Nothing is forever. There is a beginning and an end for all living things, except that of the divine that is incomprehensible to us living creatures. Unfortunately, while Serie mimics much of a deity in terms of power, a limitless lifespan, and from one of the oldest eras we know exists in Frieren, in the era of Mythic, her time will eventually come, and the Foundation Festival arc predicts the end for one of the last remaining great mages. Putting the plot relevance aside, in the event of Serie's death, she has already come up with a plan in the case that she gets eliminated from reality. And the question becomes, who will run the Continental Magic Association? There is one person that has trained under Serie's tutelage and has walked side by side with her since we've seen them interact in the first class mage exam. It's the person Serie tends to be harsher on. The person that has the power to manipulate and fortify the endless strands of hair like she's able to manage an abundant amount of things all at once. A person that Serie knows that goes far beyond her own imagination and can see a future that she can't see herself. It is the person that Serie chose to be her bodyguard and lead everyone to protect her with her life. It is none other than the first class mage since that will take over the Continental Magic Association one day and lead humanity with what to do with magic post Serie. Oh yeah, spoiler warning, but you know, it's a little bit too late. And before we continue, it's another day in the Frieren Manga hiatus. Yamada Kanehito and Abe Tsukasa are pondering about what to do in the Foundation Festival arc. How will it end? Going back and forth, until at last they decided that the great mage Serie, the feet goddess, will ultimately save the world, but with the cost of her life.
不合格だ。帰れ。
Before we discuss why it makes the most sense for Zinza to take over the Continental Magic Association and not have to rely on a deity-like figure to continue to maintain peace in the world, let's break down why the Continental Magic Association is an organization that matters, not only currently, but in all of history. What is the purpose of the Continental Magic Association in all the iterations before it? It is for the safety, security, and regulation of magic. Serie mentioned that her organization has gotten so large that even if she is alive, while many mages get yeeted off from the assassination attempts on her life, she wouldn't be able to protect all the cities in the countryside all at once. So we know that it is an organization that provides security to the areas that cannot protect themselves. Due to the decline of the Empire and whatever happened to the previous organizations that the Continental Magic Association seemingly replaced, Serie felt the need to create and occupy this void 50 years prior. The Continental Magic Association was first discussed in chapter 23 when Frieren's party was leaving Grafkanat's domain to head to Ende. But in order to get there, one must be accompanied by a first class mage. It is a certification given by the CMA, where Fern was a third class mage at the time. Frieren informs us that regulatory organizations have always existed and are constantly changing. It has occurred so often that Frieren never wanted to go through the trouble of getting the most current certification. This is where she pulls out her holy emblem, saying that it is now likely invalid. We learn later on that this little rusty necklace looks like the same one that the great mage Minas the Witch possesses. It is the same symbol of the Court of the Sacred Staff. Megane gives us a little mysterious lore behind the Court of the Sacred Staff when he explained it to Yubel, in which this organization is comparable to the Shadow Warriors in a way that they are secret units dedicated to countering mages in order to prevent rebellions. I actually have a video that discusses the mysteries behind the Court of the Sacred Staff, and also talked about it in the episode that covered Miliarde. So go ahead and check out those videos if you guys want to hear compelling theories. And knowing Frieren and that 50 years is really new before Frieren, and we know that it has changed so often in her over 1,000 years of walking this earth. So that might indicate that she obtained her title of the Great Mage very early on when Flamme still walked this earth or soon after. Being that Frieren referred to this regulatory organization turnover as many times, one would think it had to have happened 3 times at least, with Serie being the most recent to create such an organization herself. The entire lore and mystery behind what happened to all these organizations are likely tied to this holy symbol, Minas the Witch, and if Serie or Frieren's backstory gets explored during this 1,000-year gap of civilization becoming the era of humans. However, it's pretty obvious why Serie would feel the need to create the Continental Magic Association, for all the reasons why it would exist. Before, remember the flashback when Serie told Frieren just that the era of humans will arrive in 1,000 years and elves will be overtaken by humans. If they are ever to be yeeted, it would be by the Demon King or a human mage. If Serie was to be assassinated, I think we will go back to this very panel as the foreshadowing of her end, meaning it might not be a warrior that gets her, it might be a human mage. Not to get too sidetracked here, but we know that there are 3 known great mages that were alive when Minas the Witch was alive about 20 years prior, as she ran rampant in the Southern Lands for whatever reason, with this holy symbol in her possession, that are now in the Shadow Warrior's possession. Frieren and Serie should be the other 2 remaining ones, but the silhouette of what looks to be an elf and showing of the same symbol makes us believe that there are potentially more alive that we are unaware of. Like if it actually is Miliarde. What I'm trying to get at is the same reason why Commander Rivale wants to eliminate all magic. He and whatever potentially undisclosed bigger villain that wants to do the same are going to find a way to remove mana from the world, as the laws of the world, rewritten in the time of myth, shall return to how they once were. What Commander Lowe is trying to do is what the Empire and the Continental Magic Association are supposed to do: protect civilians. But to him, the existence of magic itself is the problem because of the endless chaos of human versus human violence during the Southernland Wars. Where he's from, the CMA is an org that regulates and protects civilians as well, but they consist of nothing but mages, meaning magic is literally at the core of their power. It is what they use to protect the people. We don't really know how far Serie's organization extends when it comes to the Southern Lands, but we know for sure that since they are stationed in Albers or around Albers, it should be surrounding the Northern Lands, especially since we've seen Serie send Ganao and Methode to Ganao's village in the Northern Plateau. And we've seen the first iteration of her Continental Magic Association appear right in the middle of Macht's Golden Land, when they trapped them in the Great Barrier. 1,000 years ago, mages were more scarce, and Flamme was truly the first one that convinced the Empire to use magic and teach it to the masses. Frieren referred to Flamme as a great mage then, meaning elves and the great mages during or before Flamme's time were the ones regulating magic. It very much could be that elves and great mages were the ones that have been in control of these regulatory bodies, which makes sense why Serie suddenly appeared 50 years prior to likely replace one that died off for whatever reason. Remember that the holy symbol shown here is from the Court of the Sacred Staff and is the same one as Frieren's, meaning it's connected to the same organization that certified Frieren's status as a great mage. If only great mages are the ones helping organize and regulate magic in the world, that means that there are only 2 known great mages that exist right now that can run such an organization. Remember that the magic of the Empire is militaristic, and aside from the magic from the Empire, there had to be organizations before them, which mostly probably consisted of elves, meaning it was most likely elves that had regulatory bodies that helped kind of protect the people. Which finally takes me to why Zinza, out of everyone, makes the most sense to usher in a new world where humans regulate magic amongst themselves with a system that can last longer than all the ones Frieren mentioned before that doesn't exist anymore for whatever reason. The reason why it might make more sense for Serie to no longer exist is because it's almost like a passing of the baton to the era of humans, and Zinza has all the qualities to lead and organize such a thing. Unlike Serie, she is not arrogant. Like Macht since sees herself as a pacifist. She said she never yeeted anyone, and when Edel explained how her powers work with these strands of hair, she's able to manage all that happens in her head. Those are qualities of a leader, and she is someone that Serie said that goes beyond her imagination, and she is someone that can potentially see a future that she herself cannot see. Don't mistake her kindness and guilty conscience as weak, because there have been many hints since the first class mage exam that she is way more formidable and stern when the time calls for it. Once again, remember that this is a new age. It's the era of humans. Look at that old rusty holy emblem that Frieren possesses. Look at the fact that the term Great Mage is actually very archaic, since there are only two left that hold that title in Serie and Frieren. Captain Frieza of the Magic Special Forces is one of the most formidable mages in the world. Even in Serie's dream, she gave her an incredible battle. She was even the mage that Macht, the strongest of the 7 demon sages, wanted to yeet off because of how powerful and dangerous she was in her younger years. Someone like Captain Frieza seems to be powerful enough to hold the title of a great mage. If you look at the Frieren story as a whole, it is about finding ways to move on in the world, to maintain an age of peace, to learn from the history of mankind. There are a lot of old things that still exist in the world that has become more and more meaningless, and the title of Great Mage is an example of that. It's a title that not even Frieren refers to herself as we already know that Stark, Frieren, Himmel, Hyther, and Eisen already recognize her as a powerful mage that doesn't need a title. One of the potential endings I believe Kanehito has is actually yeeting off Ashi no Megami. It is for this purpose of leaving behind her legacy so that her underlings and apprentices can start creating their own legacy or a world that was created by humanity for humanity. Even though Serie is an irreplaceable character due to her age, wisdom, and knowledge, a world that is reliant on one being shouldn't be the case, and I believe humanity is ready to take over whenever Serie ends up moving on to Oreo, where Sense will be the first human, first class mage to help usher in a new era where humans will be in control of their own destiny in regards to how they want to handle magic. And as we already know of what Captain Frieza wants, he holds the same value as Flame. He wants magic to be available for the world to use. In the prior video, I talked about why Commander Rivale wanted to eliminate all magic, but that is why the Continental Magic Association exists in the first place. And that is why in the history of these regulatory organizations, war magic has existed for so many years or centuries. It's for the basic fact so people won't use and abuse magic, which you can't completely control. But at the same time, if there is a way to combat it, the Continental Magic Association would be that. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys think about this video, and if you guys think Sense will eventually take over the CMA, I would love to know in the comments below, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.